Our first time in Ecuador, our first time in Quito. We knew to expect both natural beauty and man-made beauty. We were ready to see this amazing city. Well, mostly ready. We hadn't really factored in the protests. Because we like Copa Airlines, every one of our trips to South America, at least thus far, had started with a stop in Panama. So once again, that's where we pick up our story. I really like this airport, I really like the views coming out of this airport, and I really like takeoffs. And if that's not your thing, no big deal, but do please tolerate the next 20 seconds or so. One thing you could do during this part of the video is to like and subscribe to the channel. I would appreciate it if you did. Alright, very well, it's time to rotate. Let's get on with this. Now here we skip a little over an hour and a half and pick up our landing in Quito. Quito itself lies at an altitude of about 9,300 feet. But there are mountains and volcanoes surrounding the entire city. And that means when you land, you're going lower than the surrounding terrain. It's kind of weird. I can tell you that Quito has a very nice, very new airport. Very easy to use. Immigration, baggage retrieval, and customs were all a breeze. We had arrived on a Sunday, and we had a prearranged driver, so things were looking pretty easy so far. We were just heading into Quito proper, where we were going to the Sheraton Hotel, and had the rest of the day to ourselves. That means nothing planned, and maybe I'd go for a walk or poke around downtown. When we got within a few blocks of the hotel, though, traffic became very heavy. That was because of the protests. I didn't suddenly become an expert on Ecuador's politics or why the protesters were out there or anything of that nature. All I'm trying to say is here was our hotel. Here is the entryway to our hotel. Remember that walk I was thinking about taking? Well, here's the view from our window of our hotel. Real quick, make a mental note of the name of the park as you can see it on that sign there. And I didn't need to know a thing about who was right or who was wrong to know that getting tear gassed on my first day in Ecuador was not going to be something I would enjoy. I didn't personally see any direct confrontations, but I'm told that there were some. And I can also tell you that this went on for quite a while. Went on until the sun went down. So we spent the late afternoon just hanging out in our room, resting, and eventually we ordered Uber Eats. Yes, they have Uber Eats in Quito. I will engage in a little foreshadowing though. This would not be the only time in our 11 days in Ecuador where protests would affect our plans. The next morning, but the same park. This was actually a lovely large green space in the middle of the city. But our plans with our private tour guide for that morning had us going somewhere else. I genuinely enjoy seeing a city that I didn't know much about from the car. And that's a good thing because we were traveling a solid 30 minutes to our first destination. And soon, the walls of urban art were replaced by volcanoes. We were going to a scenic overlook, and from there we would be looking into the Pululawa crater. This volcanic crater is not only inhabited, but it's farmed. And according to our guides, we had to go here first because by midday and thereafter, the cloud cover would be too great. You couldn't see any of this. Now, after that great view, it was time for something completely different. Ecuador essentially means equator, and the equator passes very near Quito. There's a large monument to mark the equator, but it's in the wrong place. So instead, we went to the actual equator. This rather funky looking place is the Intinyan Museum. And if your first impression is that you've been brought to a tourist trap, you're a little bit right, but it's really much more, so it's worth doing. A museum guide will take you on about an hour tour of the place. And it does start out kind of slow with an old house and some bad taxidermy. It picks up a bit with the mural that teaches you how to make a shrunken head. By the way, it's illegal now.
In the head. And that way, they can delete the fat of...
Which is okay because it's hard to find a good shrunken head pot anyway. We moved away from the more static exhibits and moved toward the equator itself. At first, we found ourselves checking out this replica of a burial tomb. But then we found ourselves clearly on the equator itself. So, of course, the only responsible thing to do would be to step in the giant shoes and have your picture made. That's 1 foot in each hemisphere. So, you know how water swirls clockwise in the northern hemisphere when it's going down a drain, but counterclockwise in the southern hemisphere? Well, that's the Coriolis effect. And it was time for a very cool demonstration right on the equator. When the table is exactly on the equator, those leaves go straight down the drain. But when the table is pulled into the southern hemisphere, even by only a few feet, look what happens. And now the same thing, but about 4 feet into the northern hemisphere. Pretty neat. You don't have to go very far to prove it. Back in the car, it was time for some car window video as we drove to Old Town Quito. And if you've got a wall, you've got a canvas. This is the old town or centro area of Quito itself. And this is Independence Square in Quito. This monument to the heroes stands in the center of the square. Bounding the square, you'll find the municipal cathedral and a number of government buildings. Then as you walk down past the Krispy Kreme, which is trying to be spooky for Halloween, there lies the Church of the Society of Jesus. Known as La Campana, this is an over 250-year-old church. And you need to go inside because this place was amazing. I'm trying to cut down on the number of times I say take a look in my videos, but I mean, take a look.
School of Art. So this side of the wall, this is a mixture. Occurring here, fire.
This was certainly as spectacular as anything I've ever seen in Europe or really anywhere else. From there, we took a walk to one of the oldest parts of the city.
Supposed to come this way, and it comes until now.
Let's take a quick look at these narrow, originally residential and frankly still residential streets.
The majority of the houses, buildings in here, they belong to the 17th and the 18th century.
Now this is the Plaza de San Francisco.
So there we go.
This plaza is bordered by fancy hotels and even a great place to get chocolate. But the main thing here is the church and monastery of St. Francis. This is another one of those not quite obvious beautiful spots in the city. What you're seeing now can't be seen from the square or the street. The monastery has its own very impressive church. And one cool thing about this monastery, you can go up in the bell tower, and the views are worth it. And with that, we were back to our hotel. It had been a good day of sightseeing. The next morning I returned to the lovely El Ejido Park. I really liked this place. Today we weren't looking around Quito, we were leaving it. It was really just a simple matter of time. On an 11-day trip, you can't concentrate on Quito. There's too many good things outside of it. And so we were back to Quito Airport. By the time this trip was over, this would be a place we knew well. The painted billboards for the recent presidential election were still up. And this is a good place for me to mention that as I'm campaigning to grow my channel, I hope I've earned your subscription or at least a like on the video. And while there were plenty of political signs, it was time to see some airport signs. Where were we flying next? Well, there's a really good chance you could guess. But you won't have to.